The unsettling tale of human grooming. In the deep swirling depths of the cosmos, where neon stars pulsed against the backdrop of black void, two alien beings floated comfortably in their glassy circular chamber aboard the ship Astrocradle. The air was thick with the scent of purple zinnac flowers, a local delicacy on Zotros' home planet of Belmura. The chamber was filled with low bluish light, casting an otherworldly glow across its curved metallic walls, which hummed softly, emitting a soothing resonance. Zotros, a towering creature with a pale green exoskeleton and six glowing amber eyes, reclined on a hovering gelatinous seat. Each of his eight slender, sinewy arms rested in various states of comfort, like lazy tentacles draped over the seat's edge. His eyes twitched occasionally, still haunted by the memory of the repugnant sight he was about to share. Beside him sat his friend Klimstru, a squat, four-legged being with a broad face and sparkling, crystalline skin that changed colors with every emotion. At this moment, Klimstru's skin flickered between a curious teal and an amused lavender, sensing that Zotros had a tale worth hearing. Klimstru's voice echoed in the chamber, deep and guttural, like the rumbling of distant thunder. "So, Zotros, what was this bizarre thing you witnessed? You look shaken." Zotros adjusted his stance, his voice trembling slightly as he began. "Klimstru, you know that I was sent on a reconnaissance mission to the primitive blue planet they call Earth. It was my task to observe and gather intel on the humans' daily rituals and, well, one morning I found myself stationed outside one of their cubicle dwellings in a place they call suburbia." He paused, each of his six eyes blinking in rapid succession, indicating discomfort. Klimstru's crystalline skin shifted to an eager turquoise, signaling anticipation. Go on, Klimstru urged, curiosity clearly bubbling within him. Zotros continued, his voice taking on a haunted edge. "I had cloaked myself in an invisibility field, hovering just outside a rectangular opening the humans call a window. The domicile belonged to a human male, one of their standard specimens. Medium build, hair on the top of his head and face, and a curious obsession with checking himself in reflective surfaces. That's when I witnessed it. The grooming ritual." Klimstru's skin shifted to a soft mauve of mild horror, as if sensing something grotesque was approaching. Zotros leaned in, speaking slower now as if each word were a burden. "It started in a small, shiny chamber known as a bathroom. The air inside was moist, a concoction of chemicals and soapy scents. The walls were white and cold, covered with smooth tiles, while water dripped incessantly from a basin they call a sink. The human stared into a square of glass they call a mirror, inspecting his own face with an intensity that was unnerving. Klimstru, now an iridescent green of disgust, croaked, "But what did he do? What made it so revolting?" Zotros's six eyes narrowed, remembering the gruesome details. The human began by using a metal tool known as a razor to scrape the hair off his face. He lathered a creamy, frothy substance onto his skin like foamy mucus excreted by a Vrion slug. And then, with slow, deliberate motions, he dragged the blade across his skin, peeling off the hair, sometimes causing the skin to bleed. He didn't seem to mind. He just stared as red liquid trickled down his neck, using a small piece of soft material to dab it away. Klimstru's skin now pulsed a deep, queasy orange. "This is barbaric," he muttered, shaking slightly. "Why would he subject himself to such a torturous routine?" Zotros's voice grew deeper, filled with an almost perverse fascination. "It gets worse. After he finished mutilating his face, the human picked up a long, thin tool with bristles at one end. A toothbrush, they call it. He squirted a pungent minty gel onto it and then shoved it into his mouth, moving it around with vigorous motions. Foam overflowed from his lips, dripping back into the sink like some frothy vomit. The smell was sharp, and I felt my sensory glands recoil. The human seemed determined to cleanse the insides of his mouth, despite the grotesque noises he was making. Klimstru's face now radiated with a horrified crimson, as if absorbing Zotros' every word like a shocking bolt of lightning. Surely that was the end of it, he asked almost hopefully. But Zotros shook his head. No, there was more. He proceeded to rub his skin with various creams and oils, each smelling different, some flowery, some acrid, all unbearable to my sensory array. He even sprayed a chemical mist onto himself, which made him cough and squint. I could feel the fumes seeping through my invisibility field. It was like inhaling the exhaust of a malfunctioning thruster engine. The human seemed satisfied by this, though, as if bathing himself in noxious scents made him more presentable to others of his kind. Klimstru's skin turned a sickly gray, the color of overwhelmed disgust. Why, Zotros? Why would humans put themselves through such horrendous rituals? Their skin and body fluids are already strange enough. Zotros, who had witnessed many strange things in the universe, seemed genuinely puzzled by this question. It appears, Klimstru, that humans believe grooming makes them more appealing to one another. Perhaps it is some sort of mating strategy, or perhaps they simply enjoy inflicting bizarre self-harm. Either way, it is a ritual I would not wish upon even the most despised of intergalactic foes. Klimstru shook his head slowly, his skin flickering between confused violet and pitying pink. It's baffling how they've managed to survive as a species, Zotros. It's almost as if they delight in their own discomfort. It's no wonder the Council of Galactic Beings keeps them under observation rather than full integration. Zotros nodded, his eyes settling into a weary, dimmed glow. Indeed, Klimstru, watching this human's morning ritual was not just grotesque. It was a humbling reminder of how peculiar organic life can be. Perhaps it is best that we observe from afar for now, until we truly understand the motives behind their rituals. With that, the two aliens fell into a contemplative silence. The hum of the astral cradle returned to its usual rhythm, and the chamber's blue glow seemed to pulse gently, as if the ship itself were digesting the bizarre tale of human habits. Klimstru's skin returned to a soft, neutral blue, an alien's version of calm acceptance. Well, Zotros, he said finally, the universe is full of many strange and unsettling sights. But this human grooming story may haunt my dreams. Zotros let out a slow, whistling sigh, all 6 eyes still wide with lingering trauma. Indeed, Klimstru, indeed. Klimstru shuddered once more, trying to process the strange, almost masochistic tendencies of the human species. His skin fluctuated between shades of queasy green and a pale, ghostly blue, like a rippling sea under a sickly moon. Zotros, Klimstru said slowly, as if treading carefully around a tender wound. Did this human's peculiar ritual at least have an end? Or was it some kind of endless loop, a repetitive madness that they perform daily? Zotros sighed, his 6 amber eyes dimming slightly as he recalled the final segment of the grotesque morning ceremony. Klimstru, you would think that scraping one's skin with a blade and lathering with foamy toxins would be enough. But there was more, and it involved the manipulation of his head appendage, the hair, as they call it. Klimstru's body flashed a quick, pale orange of disbelief. What more could he possibly do to that tangled mess of fibers atop his head? I thought it was just for thermal regulation, or maybe an evolutionary blunder. Zotros let out a hollow chuckle, a sound resembling the slow leak of air from a punctured hoverpod. You would think that, wouldn't you? But this human was particularly obsessed with his head fibers. After cleansing his skin with a series of fluids, he then brought forth a strange device, a small handheld machine with bristles that spun rapidly. It was as if he sought to tame the chaos on his head by force. The hovering gelatinous seat under Zotros seemed to wobble slightly as he spoke, as if sharing in his sense of unease. He continued, his voice now tinged with a mix of fascination and horror. The human applied a sticky, gel-like substance to his hair, smoothing it with his fingers until it gleamed unnaturally in the artificial light of the bathroom. His face bore a peculiar expression of satisfaction, a smugness I have only ever seen in Tharvan warlords after a victorious battle. But this was not victory. This was grooming. Klimstru, still absorbing the absurdity of the tale, flickered to a confused turquoise, and he thought this made him attractive, appealing to his peers, perhaps. Precisely, Zartros replied with a solemn nod, but the oddities did not end there. The human then picked up a long, thin, tube-like object, which he applied to the edges of his mouth, smearing a waxy substance over his lips. The smell was sweet, almost cloying, like overripe Tylox berries. He then made peculiar faces at himself in the mirror, puckering his lips and tilting his head, as if trying to approve of his own handiwork. Klimstru's skin vibrated rapidly, a sign of both disgust and sheer bewilderment. What purpose could this serve? Are the humans not satisfied with their natural form? Must they constantly alter themselves to feel superior? Zotros leaned back slightly, his tall, thin form sagging with the weight of what he had witnessed. It appears that humans thrive on this transformation, Klimstru. They are never truly content with what they are. Every morning, ritual seems to be a performance, an elaborate preparation for the day ahead, one filled with interactions, judgments, and assessments from their fellow beings. It's as if they fear being seen in their raw state. Klimstru's face darkened to a somber, deep purple, indicating pity. Perhaps it is their innate fragility that compels them to disguise their imperfections with these bizarre rituals. They have no exoskeletons, no natural defenses. Maybe this grooming is their armor, their way of presenting strength in a world that often seems hostile. Sotros nodded slowly, each eye blinking in turn as he considered Klimstru's perspective. You may be right. They are creatures of vulnerability, desperate to project strength and desirability through unnatural means. But what struck me most was the final part of the ritual. Klimstru's curiosity reignited, his color shifting to an eager indigo. What could be more unsettling than everything you've described so far? Zartros paused for dramatic effect, all six eyes focusing intently on Klimstru. The human put on clothing, layers of woven fabric, each with a different texture and design. This part seemed almost ceremonial. He selected the fabrics carefully from a rectangular closet, filled with numerous choices. He held each piece in front of his body, studying himself in the mirror with a critical eye before making his decision. Klimstru let out a slow, grumbling sound, akin to a cosmic groan. And what is the purpose of these coverings? Do they provide warmth, protection, or merely enhance the illusion of attractiveness? Zotros's eyes narrowed as he pondered this question. A combination, I believe. Some of the garments seemed functional, like the thick layers for warmth or the hard-soled footwear for protection, but others were purely decorative, adorned with symbols, patterns, and even words. These garments were meant to signify identity, status, and mood. The human seemed to adjust them constantly, as if unsure of how he wished to be perceived by the outside world. Klimstru's skin shifted to a thoughtful teal, as if considering the implications of such behavior. It is a peculiar species indeed, Sotros. But perhaps there is something to be learned from their need for change, for constant adaptation. even if it is just cosmetic. Zotros nodded slowly, his eyes still haunted, but his voice now more reflective. Yes, Klimstru. While their rituals are grotesque by our standards, they speak to a deeper truth about the human condition. The desire to shape oneself, to be seen as more than what they truly are. It is both pathetic and admirable in its own way. But I do not envy them. Not one bit. Klimstru's skin settled into a gentle shade of blue, a sign of calm acceptance. Neither do I, my friend, but I am glad I could hear of this strange spectacle from you. It has given me new insights into the minds of humans, disturbing as they may be. The two aliens sat in contemplative silence for a moment longer, the hum of the astral cradle resonating softly around them. Zotros's gelatinous seat adjusted itself to a more comfortable position, as if the very act of recounting the story had exhausted him. Klimstru, breaking the silence, let out a low, amused rumble. You know, Zotros, perhaps we should be thankful for our own grooming habits. A quick dip in the cerulean pools of Belmura and a spritz of Gyneth spores, and we are perfectly groomed for an entire week. Simple, efficient, and free of bloodshed. Zotros let out a series of rhythmic clicks, a sound of alien laughter. Indeed, Klimstru, simplicity has its advantages. I will never again take our efficient ways for granted. The two aliens floated there, their translucent forms glimmering in the soft blue light. The cosmic stars outside twinkled indifferently, bearing silent witness to this strange tale of a distant, peculiar species called humans. And as they drifted back into the ordinary flow of intergalactic duties, Zotros' tale lingered in the still air, an unsettling yet oddly enlightening memory of a morning on Earth.